Thanks, Christian, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to talk to you about the Azure Minerals story. And as the title up there says, it's the Andover Battery Metals Project. Up until a few months ago, it was the Andover Nickel Project. And along with the nickel, we have copper and cobalt as well. But we've now made some very recent discoveries of high-grade lithium in pegmatites as well. So it has expanded the mineral base of the overall project. The usual disclaimer and statements which can be found on our website in this presentation, which is available there. It's important that we acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands which we operate on in the Andover project area, which is in the Western Pilbara. It's the Ngarluma Aboriginal peoples who are in there. They are a group of people that have a very close connection to the land. We operate there with their approvals and permissions, and it's very important that we maintain a very strong and positive relationship with the Ngarluma. We've been working there for nearly 3 years now, and I have to say that the relationship we've got has been first class, but it's really up to us to make sure that we continue to build and strengthen that relationship. Also, the ESG is very important to us, so this is expanding out from just having good community relations with the Ngarluma peoples. This is also to do with the whole worldwide, the whole community of the West Pilbara region as well. We intend to make sure that Azure operates at the highest possible standards that are expected of the modern mining industry in Australia. So corporately, the company's got 390 million shares on issue. There's a market cap of about $110 million at the moment. Importantly, you can see there the major shareholders. The largest one is SQM, which is the world's largest lithium producer. It's a Chilean company. They invested $20 million into Azure in a transaction which closed last week. And so that $20 million investment into Azure, the company, has given them a 19.99% holding in Azure. And to have the world's largest lithium producer support us is a huge and it's very strong endorsement for the prospectivity and the potential for the lithium that is on our Andover project. So Andover is a joint venture between Azure and Mark Creasy and the Creasy Group. It's a 60-40 joint venture. We own the 60%. Mark Creasy's 40% is free carried through to the final investment decision. And we operate the project on behalf of that joint venture. What we've identified there in the nearly 3 years we've been operating on the Andover project is in effect a new mineral province in that part of Western Australia. So not only have we identified multiple deposits and occurrences of nickel, copper, cobalt sulfide mineralisation, but we've also recently identified the lithium-rich pegmatite swarm that is in there, and I'll talk about both of those opportunities through this talk. The two deposits that we've drilled to date are the Andover deposit and the Ridgeline deposit. Together they total about 6 million tonnes at just under 1.5% nickel equivalent for just under 100,000 tonnes of combined nickel plus copper plus cobalt. And the intention of the company is to continue to explore for nickel on Andover and to increase those resources. And we've also, because of where we are, it's an absolutely fantastic location. So basically a 2-hour plane flight from Perth up to Karratha, and then probably 40 minutes drive from the airport through to our project area along the main highway up there. So not only does the highway go through the project area, but we've also got roads, got a gas pipeline, we've got a potable water pipeline, high voltage power lines, cell phone coverage throughout the project area. So everything you could possibly want for an exploration and mining project is located within probably 30 minutes to an hour's drive from the project area. So apart from Kalgoorlie, in the immediate vicinity of Kalgoorlie, you could not get a better located mining project than Andover. So what we're going to be talking about today in terms of the mineral potential is twofold. It's the nickel, copper and cobalt side of things and also the lithium side of things. And the reason for being able to claim that we've got a really strong potential for these minerals up there is the fact that most of the area is outcropping. All the rocks stick out of the ground There's very little cover, no sand cover in the area, no later rocks that cover over the top of it. So traditional exploration methodology of boots on the ground, walking the ground, identifies for us really strongly mineralised outcrops. And you can see in the photographs there, one of them is, which is the left-hand side, lower left is outcropping copper-rich gossans. Some very high grades have been found in those gossans. On the lower right, we've got nickel-rich gossans that stick out. This particular one sits on the top of the Andover deposit itself. And then the top photograph is the lithium-rich pegmatites that outcrop are prevalent throughout the eastern half of the project area. So to have these rocks sticking out of the ground and have that visual identification of mineralisation made so easily up there, it just makes this project a really, really great place to explore. So we'll talk about lithium to start with, and this is a relatively recent story for Azure. We identified that there were pegmatites about a year ago. We carried out a long project of exploration, surface exploration on those pegmatites throughout most of last year before we announced the first results. What we've identified there is that there is a prolific swarm of pegmatites that are outcropping. They're shown on that aerial image there as those red shapes on the right-hand side or eastern side of the project area. So we've identified over 700 outcropping pegmatites. Now most of those are actually going to be joined together into larger pegmatites that have got some other host rocks sitting over the top of them, but there is a multitude of outcropping pegmatites there. The actual swarm is around about 9 kilometres long by up to 5 kilometres wide on the eastern side. All of the pegmatites are contained within that zone. So there's a northeast trending structure and then an easterly trending structure forming a bit of a triangle. All of the pegmatites are located within that triangle. There are no pegmatites that we've identified that are not on our ground. So in effect, we hold 100% of that pegmatite field within our Andover project. And there's some very large ones in there, over 1 kilometre long and maybe 100 or more metres wide. So this is what it looks like on surface. These two field geologists out there are standing on one of the outcropping pegmatites. This is the sort of areas we were out there sampling. Over the period of 2022, we took nearly 800 rock chip samples from surface, and as you can see from some of the numbers there, some very high grades. I don't know of any other lithium project in Western Australia that has recovered as many high-grade lithium assays as we have on this project. To have plus 4% or maybe plus 3% or even plus 2% outcropping at surface is quite remarkable, and this could make the Andover lithium project quite unique in WA. And this is what this sort of looks like. On the left-hand side there's massive spodumene that's grading 4 to 5% in outcrop, 4 to 5% lithium oxide in the outcrop. And then on the right-hand side you've got these bladed spodumene pegmatites where you're looking at 2 to 3, maybe up to 4% lithium oxide in those outcrops as well. So this is the sort of rocks that we're finding across that pegmatite swarm. I'm not going to say they're everywhere, but they're certainly very, very common. So we've carried out a little bit more advanced exploration. On the right-hand side is a photograph of some drill core. Late last year we drilled this hole 199. We drilled it into a nickel target that was adjacent to an outcropping pegmatite, and we didn't actually hit any nickel in the hole, but we did hit this pegmatite, 7 metres at 1.5% lithium oxide, a very, very high-grade intersection. Albeit 7 metres is a good intersection width, but it's not great, but it's certainly very encouraging, particularly as we weren't targeting a pegmatite in that hole. So a great little first start. Then at the beginning of this year, we started doing lithium-specific, lithium-focused drilling, diamond drilling. The first 2 holes are shown in the cross-section there. We released this information a few days ago. So hole 201 and 202 were drilled. Both of them have hit this flat-lying pegmatite there. One of them is 22 metres wide, the other one is 27 metre wide pegmatite. So in effect, both of those holes have intersected approximately 20 metres of true width of pegmatite, within which we were able to say that we have visually identified spodumene within that pegmatite. So these two holes are out at the lab at the moment waiting for assays, probably 4 to 6 weeks before we get those. However, the indications is that what we see at surface, those higher grades that we're getting at surface, may well be replicated in the drilling that we're currently doing. And if that's the case, then this Andover lithium project becomes top tier. It really does have that potential. So where to from here for the rest of this year? Well, we've started the diamond drilling. So we've got about 10,000 metres budgeted of diamond core drilling for the pegmatites, and we've got a budget of about 30,000 metres of RC drilling, which will also be carried out. So in effect, 40,000 metres of drilling. If we are successful with that drilling and we actually can visually see and the assays confirm that we're getting high-grade lithium across significant widths of pegmatite in those drill holes, then we will accelerate that by bringing in second, third rig, fourth rig, and potentially by the middle of the year we could have 4 or 5 drill rigs drilling for lithium on this project. And then the benefit of this particular pegmatite swarm is that all the indications is that the only lithium mineral we're seeing there is spodumene, which is the preferred lithium mineral. It's the one that's being produced at Pilgangoora with Pilbara Minerals, for example, and Wodgina with MinRes. So this is the preferred mineral species, spodumene, and that's what we seem to have uniquely at this project. And we've got a number of other tasks that we'll be undertaking as well. So metallurgical test work, heritage, environment, and the like will all be advanced this year as we progress the lithium project. So then we look at the other side of the coin at Andover, and this is what we originally went into this project for nearly 3 years ago, the nickel, copper and cobalt sulfide potential here. And I'd have to say that we've been very successful here. We've identified and drilled 2 deposits, the Andover deposit and the Ridgeline deposit. As I said earlier, they total about 6 million tonnes of just under 1.5% nickel equivalent. Very robust resources. Most of those resources are in the indicated category. What we see here is the potential for numerous nickel deposits and potentially numerous nickel mines that would be exploited and would feed into a centrally located processing facility in the project area. And you'll see that the yellow stars are on there, which are the nickel targets, are also in that same structural setting as the pegmatites. So this really is a project where both the lithium and the nickel are in close proximity to each other. So the Andover deposit itself, this is the first one we discovered. We drilled it in October 2020 with the first hole. We ended up doing about 140 diamond drill holes into this for about 50,000 metres of diamond drilling. The mineralisation starts at surface. It outcrops as a gossan with high elevated nickel and copper mineralisation at surface. But the sulfides start at about 20 metres down and they come in straight away, so it's basically all sulfide mineralisation from 20 metres down. We're looking at a deposit here which is very strong continuity, both in terms of the width and the grade. In the central part of the deposit, which is mostly that red indicated resource category, the mineralisation and the mineralised envelope is 25 to 30 metres true width. And across that true width, the nickel grade is consistently between 1 and 1.2%. So really good continuity of mineralisation in terms of both width and grade. And what we're looking at here is a shape which is ideal for an underground mining operation to extract the mineralisation. And Ridgeline, which is located very close to the Andover deposit, this is one that we discovered. This one does not come to surface. It's a blind deposit. It was discovered by the really good work that our geologists and geophysicists did to identify potential and then follow that up and do all this. The mineralisation doesn't come any closer to surface than 200 metres. And to be able to find a blind deposit like that in here is a real credit to the technical team that we've got working on the nickel. Once again, this is a very similar style of mineralisation, nickel, copper and cobalt sulfides that have excellent continuity of width and grade through that deposit. Importantly, the mineralisation remains open. The drill intersection that you can see there, 15 metres at just over 2.2% nickel, plus some copper and cobalt, that is the greatest width and highest grade mineralisation that we identified or drilled in the Ridgeline deposit and that's the deepest hole. So the best drill intersection sits at the bottom of the deposit, indicating that the mineralisation does continue at depth, and further drilling would likely to be significantly increase the size of this resource. We aren't doing any more drilling that deep at the moment because it's over 500 metres below surface, so it makes more sense to wait until we undertake the underground development, and we'll be able to drill more holes deeper from that underground mine development when that gets underway. So the two deposits, Andover and Ridgeline, are located very close to each other. They're only about 200 metres apart. They're on the same east-west striking structure. The mineralisation is similar. In effect, they would be similar. You could call it the same deposit, but there is a gap between the two of about 200 metres where there's very little mineralisation. So what we're looking at here is a co-development strategy with a portal and then a decline that would go in underneath those two deposits, and then we would look to extract the mineralisation through a long hole open stoping methodology, and we would be backfilling with cemented tailings to ensure ground stability. So really, really good opportunity here for a nickel development strategy, and that's what we're continuing to do. We've carried out a lot of metallurgical test work on both Ridgeline and Andover, so we get very high grade concentrates. So there's a nickel cobalt concentrate and a copper concentrate, and the copper concentrate comes off first. That's around about 25% copper, and the nickel and cobalt concentrate comes out, it's about 13% nickel and maybe up to % cobalt in there as well. Importantly, because of the host rocks that contain the mineralisation, there's virtually no deleterious elements, no nasty elements in there. So very low MgO, no arsenic, no cadmium, none of those really problematic elements in there. This is a straightforward flotation of a very pure concentrate, both nickel and copper. So where to from here for the project? Well, looking at, we have accelerated the nickel exploration strategy. We have obviously drilled out 2 deposits to date, 200 diamond drill holes, 80,000 metres. So there's a lot of work's gone into it so far. We'll be continuing to do that exploration. We have a number of very, very high priority targets. To test those targets, we need to firstly get heritage surveys undertaken so we can get clearances to actually go out and drill on those targets. We expect that to happen over the next few months, and then we'll be out there drilling again and on these new targets, and we'll be looking to increase the overall resource base significantly through the drilling program for the rest of this year. Meanwhile, over the last 18 months or so, we've been carrying out a scoping study. That is nearing completion. So we've got all the components you can see there, the resources, the mining, the metallurgy, geotechnical, all of those things, all those components are either now complete or very nearly complete. That's being put together now. We'll put a financial modelling around a mining and processing operation to exploit both the Andover and the Ridgeline deposits. And we're hopeful we'll be able to put that, the results of that scoping study out publicly within the next couple of months. So for the project, we've set, I guess I and the board have set some objectives for the technical teams. So on the nickel side of things, we expect to complete the scoping study and, if all goes well, a PFS by the end of this year. And for the exploration side of things, they've been tasked with identifying additional resources to grow the nickel component of the resources from 66,000 contained tonnes to 100,000 tonnes, and to grow the copper up to over 50,000 tonnes of contained copper as well. So that's the objective that's been set for the nickel exploration team at Azure. On the lithium side of things, well, let's accelerate it, get multiple rigs out there on the ground. So long as we're continuing to hit good widths of high-grade mineralisation, we will progress the lithium side of things absolutely as fast as we can. You don't get the largest lithium producer in the world investing $20 million for us to sit back and just potter along. We will be addressing the lithium side of things as quickly as we possibly can. If all goes well and we're able to drill out some of these pegmatites, potentially we'll have a maiden mineral resource by the end of the year. But importantly, we want to be able to demonstrate that there is potential at Andover for plus 100 million tonne resource of lithium. So the lithium deposits around the world or there's a large proportion here in WA. There is a large number of them are in the 10 to 15, maybe 20 million tonne range. Then there's very few up to 100 million tonnes, and then there are 9 in the world which are over 100 million tonnes. 5 of those are in Western Australia. So they're all in development, either in production or in development as we speak. So my objective that I've set for the team is to let's show that this project at Andover has the potential to host over 100 million tonnes. If that's the case, it would make it one of the most significant lithium deposits in the world. And that's what, as I said, the strategic objective for the company for 2023. Show that we have potential for over 100 million tonnes of lithium resources. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a real pleasure to be able to talk to you about the Azure Minerals story and the Andover project. It literally is the project that just keeps on giving. And let's hope that that does continue, because the potential of Andover is enormous. Thank you.